Okay, let's talk about how to use storytelling to make your talent acquisition, talent management, and talent development messaging far more effective. So, one of my absolute favorite books is the book Made to Stick. Why some, if I've got it right here, why some ideas survive and others die. And the authors, Chip and Dan Heath, talk about the six characteristics of, quote, sticky messages. So they're the ones that like hit home and then stick with the listener. And one of the six are sticky messages are told through stories. Now, they also have a wonderful quote, and I don't know if it's in the book or it's in an article or video, but they said, stories provide inspiration and simulation. And I like to add celebration to that mix. So, why are stories so powerful? They provide inspiration, number one. So, if you use stories, what I call stories of awesome. So, if you share stories of employees performing with excellence, embodying your organizational values, facing challenges, etc., it inspires others to raise their game. I'm going to give you an example of that in a moment. Also, stories provide simulation. And I think of certain types of stories provide simulation. I call this genre flight simulator stories. So these are stories that go into detail describing how somebody addressed a problem or responded in some exemplary way. So they provide inspiration and simulation. They're sort of like virtual reality training videos, and they especially excel if you're wanting people to become more effective in customer service or patient care, but really any sort of communicating a vision of what excellence looks like and how to handle different situations. So stories provide inspiration and simulation. And then I like to add celebration. Stories are a wonderful way of what I call celebrating awesome. The employer that to me is the gold standard of using stories both in their employer branding and onboarding new employees, and also keeping the vision of alive of what excellence looks like. That employer is Ritz-Carlton. So what they do is every day they have a team huddle about either 15 or 20 minutes. And if it's employees that work a shift, like let's say housekeeping, each shift has a huddle. And some of these huddles, they share what they call, quote, wow stories. And it's a story of, amazingly enough, an employee wowing a guest. And they tie the story back to their core value of surprising and delighting guests. Now, one of my favorite examples of a wow story, I'm going to share it with you as if you were in a new hire orientation program. And first, I'm going to pretend I'm speaking to you as the trainer in the program without using the story and then using the story. So here we go. So let's say, um, our guiding principle in terms of delivering an amazing guest experience is noticing and satisfying unexpressed guest needs, or recognizing and satisfying unexpressed guest needs. So be on the lookout for situations where you could delight the guest. Okay? All right. So, regardless of what your role is, we want you to do that. Now, imagine you're the new hire and you're like, okay, I'll do my best, because you have a sense of what that means. But that abstract language doesn't give you a really clear picture of what I mean by that, what Ritz-Carlton means by that. So let's say I say that, and by the way, that's an approximation of Ritz-Carlton's guiding principle for their associates. Now, let's say I say what I already said, and then I go, let me give you an example. In one of our properties, there was a mom and dad and their little girl, and they were by the pool. Mom and dad are sitting in chase lounges, enjoying the sun, watching the little girl and talking. And their little girl is walking around the pool deck. And as she's doing that, she's playing with one of her front teeth. She's at the age, she's wiggling it because she's at the age where the primary teeth are coming out. And as she's playing with that, all of a sudden she pops it out and she's staring at her tooth. And suddenly she starts to have a meltdown and she starts crying. And what do you think's going on inside her head? Now, if you're thinking, she's thinking like, oh no, we're not at home. How can the tooth fairy, give me whatever the tooth fairy brings in that home? You're right. So she's having a little kid meltdown about this horrible new development in her life. And mom and dad, like at first, like, what's going on with our little daughter? And then they realize what happened, and they work on like calming her down. It, takes forever. Finally, the little girl calms down. Mom and dad think like now's a good time to get out of Dodge and go sightseeing. So they go into the hotel, they change, and they go out about the town and and do their sightseeing. Later on that day, they walk into the lobby, and the little girl stops dead in her tracks because there, standing in the lobby, is the tooth fairy. And the little girl knows exactly who the tooth fairy is waiting for. And so she goes running up like, tooth fairy, runs up, gives her tooth fairy a big hug. And the tooth fairy has this like awesome bag of Ritz-Carlton quality, tooth fairy swag. Now, I don't know if it was the gardener who was clipping some of the shrubs nearby, or if it was the pool boy freshening up the towels. Whoever it was, they were on the lookout, as we want you to be, for opportunities to wow guests. And another way we talk about it is always have your radar on and your antenna up. And so that associate had their radar on and their antenna up and asked themselves, what can I do to like make this semi-disaster turn out to be a W for both the mom and dad and the daughter? And how can I create a wow, amazing experience that they will remember forever and tell all their friends? And that's what they came up with. So that's the type of creativity you have at your disposal that we're looking for you, and the ability to make it happen. Okay, let me stop. So think about how much more inspiring and real does that story make the message versus just speaking abstractly about anticipate and satisfy unexpressed needs or wow the guests. So stories are a powerful way to provide inspiration and simulation, and also, especially with ongoing employees, they provide celebration. So you're celebrating awesome. One of my messages when I'm working with managers and leaders is if you want more awesome out of your employees, notice, recognize, appreciate the awesome that you're already getting. So rather than just saying, Samuel did an amazing job helping a scared child in our, let's say it's a hospital, and our cancer department deal with, getting their head shaved or chemotherapy or whatever, you know, way to go, Samuel, and providing a gentle, calming experience. Well, Samuel feels good, like, great, that was noticed, but it doesn't really inspire, and it certainly doesn't simulate, because other employees are like, well, that was great, great for Samuel. No idea what he did. How can I learn from that? Using a story, either having Samuel, if he's up for it, sharing what he did and his thought process behind it, or if Samuel doesn't want to, you share the story. That provides inspiration, simulation, and celebration. So, in our session, we can talk more about how you can do that. Also, some of the areas of storytelling that where also storytelling shine are when you're trying to get a message across, whether you're teaching something or trying to influence. Using stories make your message way more interesting, understandable, and compelling. Also, stories are gold for helping people shift their emotional, physiological, mental state, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's in a group, and helping people shift from feeling disempowered and there's nothing I can do here, or there's no solution here, to feeling empowered and therefore more optimistic. And this is a super important point, because our emotional slash physiological state profoundly affects how we perceive our world. Helping people shift their state helps them see options and opportunities that they're not able to if they're feeling beleaguered, overwhelmed, stressed out. Just a super quick example. Think about how different your life looks if you've had a good night's sleep compared to if you're really tired. Or let's say you're having an afternoon slump and how burdened you feel about everything. You have a cup of coffee or tea, and suddenly whatever you have to do seems way more manageable. The outside world hadn't changed, obviously. Your physiology changed, and now your perception changed. So stories are a great way of helping people shift state, whether you're coaching one-on-one or working on mobilizing a group. Another area that we can explore, if you're interested, is how stories are a powerful way of challenging people's limiting beliefs, like, oh, there's no way I can, address this issue with my boss, or um, like, the reason why I'm having conflict with people in the other department is because of them. There's nothing that I might be doing that might be contributing to this conflict. Stories are a wonderful way of challenging counterproductive beliefs without being confrontational. In fact, Dr. Milton Erickson, who really revolutionized the world of therapeutic storytelling, I was lucky enough to study. He had passed away by the time I came on the scene, but I was lucky enough to study with several of his most prominent students. Erickson describes storytelling as a therapy of politeness. So you can really hit home with a powerful, challenging message, but it comes across because it's embedded in a story in a polite, courteous, non-confrontational way. So we can explore those and anything else that you would find useful, including where do you find stories, which is oftentimes one of the biggest questions I get when I'm doing programs. So that's a quick overview, and then we can go on from here.